And we're on to level 8. This is actually going to be the last video because level 9 is just a harder version of level 8, but it's the same concept. There's nothing new, it's just kind of putting everything together. So I'm going to show you level 8. Here's where things get really tricky because we've got y equals 5x squared times cosine of x squared. So immediately I see two functions multiplied by each other, and I know we have to use product rule. Some people try and do chain rule here, but if you look at it, there's nothing that's trapped inside of anything else. 5x squared stands on its own, and then cosine x squared stands on its own. Neither one of those is inside the other one. Now we do have x squared inside of cosine, so we'll need to do chain rule when we get to here, but we'll talk about that when we get there. So I've added two things to our key. U is going to be our first product, and V is going to be our second product. So in this case, U is 5x, and V is cosine x squared. And if we remember product rule, it's going to be U times the derivative of V plus V times the derivative of U. And if you don't remember that, go back and check your notes on product rule. And so it starts out pretty easy. We've got 5x squared. We do the power rule, we get 10x. But then when it's time to find our derivative for V, we've got a function inside of a function, so we've got to do chain rule. So I come over here, and I've got my chain rule. My outside function is cosine of g. My inside function is x squared, right? Because I've got cosine of x squared. So that x squared is inside, it's trapped inside that cosine. I then take the derivative, and I get negative sine g. I take the derivative over here, I get 2x. I do the chain rule, I multiply those two together, and I get that the derivative of this thing, the derivative of v, is equal to negative sine g times 2x, and I just plug my g back in, and I get negative 2x sine x squared. And you'll notice that's what goes in here. Because dv over dx and v prime are just two ways of writing the same thing. This means the derivative of v with respect to x. This means the derivative of v with respect to x. These are just two different notations for saying the exact same thing. So we have found the derivative by doing chain rule. That gets put in here, and then we start going again with our product rule. So we've got u times the derivative of v. U was 5x squared. The derivative of v, which we just found, was negative 2x sine x squared. All of that plus v times du. So v, which is cosine x squared, here, times the derivative of u, which is 10x, times 10x. And I just do a little bit of simplifying. Negative 2x times 5x squared is going to give me negative 10x cubed times sine x squared plus 10x cosine x squared. So to summarize, the first thing we notice is we start with the product rule. And we start going with the product rule until we get to a derivative that's a composite function. And that means we need to pause the product rule and go over and do the chain rule in order to find the derivative. We put that derivative back into our part of our product rule, and we keep going with the product.